It's been 5 games since the Pistons made their change to the starting lineup and officially went with point Jaden Ivey. How has that went over the last 5 games, and how has Jaden Ivey played over the last 5 games? We're going to talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on our podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Real quickly, in other Pistons or outside of Pistons news, how about that Kyrie to Dallas Mavericks trade, man? That came kind of out of nowhere, sped up real quickly. I feel like just like 2 days ago, Kyrie asked for a trade, and 2 days later, he's on the Dallas Mavericks. That's pretty crazy. Let me know what you guys think about that deal. You guys think that makes Dallas better? Are they a championship contender now? Just outside of the Pistons news, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. All right, but anyways, back to Pistons stuff. So it's been 5 games now since the Pistons decided to bench Killian Hayes and start Alec Burks next to Jaden Ivey to give Jaden Ivey all the point guard reps, to give Jaden Ivey complete, basically free reign in the starting lineup. And the way I described it is basically make it his playground. Like, this is everything's going to come down to Ivey. Ivey's creating everything, and it's just he gets to play around out there and experiment and get a lot of reps. And how has it went over the last 5 games? Well, Jaden Ivey over the last 5 games is averaging 16.6 points a game, 5.8 assists on 50% shooting, 47% shooting from beyond the arc, 69% shooting from the free throw line, which is just really weird. I don't get what's up with him at the free throw line all year, really. And his assist to turnover ratio is 5.8 assists to 3.0 turnovers. So you've seen the scoring tick up. He's been much more efficient over the last 5 games. And I've liked what I've seen from him as a passer. And even going beyond just the last 5 games where he was, he's the pretty much the point guard of the team now over the last 5 games. Even going beyond then, heck, you go all the way back to January 4th, last 14 games. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games of over 5 assists. I feel like we were seeing the progression of his playmaking before he was elevated to being just the sole point guard on the starting lineup. So I don't know if it's just the starting lineup that caused that. We were seeing it beforehand, but definitely over the last 5 games, obviously he's had higher usage, which means the numbers are going to go up, and we've seen that over the last 5 games for him, assist-wise. The three-point shooting, while it's great, I don't think any of us are expecting that to be sustained. He had a really good night against Charlotte. We went 4 for 4 from deep. That was a really damn good night for him. One of his best nights of the year, probably his best game of the year, most efficient by far. So the three-point shoot, I'm not really going to pay attention to. I don't think it's a hot take to say he's probably not going to shoot 40% from deep the rest of the year. He's going to crash back down. But what else we've seen from him that I've really liked, it's quite a few things. One, at the beginning of the year, look, this dude looked like he didn't know what to do at all in between the three-point line and the rim. It was something that was discussed as an issue for him in college, coming into the draft, and at the beginning of the year, you saw it completely on display. It was putrid. It was bad. It was really bad. When he got in between those areas, he just didn't know what to do. A lot of turnovers came of it. A lot of awkward shots came of it. He was really bad in the in-between area. I'm not saying he's Chris Paul now, but he's 100% a lot better in between that area. There's a lot of mid-range pull-ups that he's taken, and we've talked about that on the podcast, that his mid-range pull-ups just look so much more smooth and well put together and fluid. Now, beforehand, his feet were flying all over the place. His legs were all over the place spreading, and then you got, his upper body's going one way. Like, it was just all kinds of awkward and just bad stuff on his pull-ups. Now, he's well under control, jumping and landing in the same area. Just looks really nice. But to go along with that as well, not just the pull-up shooting, forget just the pull-up shooting. His decision-making in the in-between area looks much better. He's looking for guys when he runs the pick and roll with Jalen Duren. And I do think that his chemistry with Jalen Duren is really what's contributing to this more than anything else. Isaiah Stewart's not a good screener. Half the time, he doesn't even get contact on his screen. He likes to slip a lot, and he doesn't have a lot of good timing and chemistry with Jaden Ivey when he's going downhill. Jalen Duren sets really nice screens, and it seems like he's really perfected the timing and gotten used to how Jaden Ivey likes to attack down the hill when he's coming off the screens. So he knows how to create that space. He knows what space to fit into, when to roll, the timing of it all. And because of that, Jaden Ivey is looking for him a lot more. Jaden Ivey's he's not just coming off the pick and roll, sprinting straight to the rim. He's coming off the pick and roll, and he's taking his time. And if the big comes up too far to him, he's dumping it off to Jalen Duren for easy dunks and layups. And if he doesn't come up, Jaden Ivey's just going to the rim and hitting a layup. And then he's also doing a pretty good job, I feel like, on hitting his first read to the opposite corner over the last 5 games on these kickouts. Overall, I think he's just shown major improvement. And again, I think it goes before or beyond the last 5 games. I thought we were seeing this more before. But over the last 5 games, like I said, obviously the usage went up, so you're going to see more of it. And he's looked a lot more comfortable in between the three-point line and the rim for the Pistons as their starting point guard now. And him and Alec Burks. And I saw a lot of people arguing about this earlier on Twitter and even in the comment section. I feel like you probably would have solved this either way if you would have taken Alec Burks. Now, you could argue that Jaden Ivey would be better. That's perfectly fine. But I feel like either way, if you would have took Alec Burks and just put him in the starting lineup with either of the guards, like if you were just, if let's say Jaden Ivey was just like hurt and didn't play, and you just put Alec Burks in the starting lineup, I feel like you probably would have saw a lot of the same things offensively for the team. Because if you just insert a veteran who can create for himself, can score really well, and can provide legit spacing for either guard, it would help both of them tremendously, and the numbers back that up too. Jaden Ivey and Alec Burks have been really good over the last 5 games, but even Killian Hayes and Alec Burks in their time on the floor together this season, they have a 108.7 offensive rating and a minus 2.5 net rating, which is towards the highest in the duos for the Pistons. So Alec Burks, look, at the beginning of the year, I feel like a lot of us just like, including myself, didn't really put enough value into what Alec Burks would bring. When he came back, the bench unit took off. They were the best bench unit in the NBA once he returned for like the next 2 months. And then as soon as he comes to the starting lineup, he makes life easier on Jaden Ivey. I think his impact on the team has been pretty noticeable. And that's why I feel like he's probably going to stay on this team past the trade deadline, which, by the way, is in 4 days as of me recording this. But back to Jaden Ivey. My point is that Alec Burks is really helping Jaden Ivey and just overall everyone on the floor with his spacing, along with Bojan Bogdanovic, and then also the screening and the legit lob threat and legit screens he's getting, Jaden Ivey that is, from Jalen Duren has really helped him too, along with his own maturation throughout the year and just seeing stuff, processing it throughout the year, and then adjusting, which is by far the biggest thing for me that we've seen from Jaden Ivey throughout the year, even more so in the last 5 games, is that things that he was struggling at the beginning of the year. He's not elite at it now, but I feel like you can confidently say that when you watch him play, you can see him that some of the mistakes that he was making at the beginning of the year, he's not making now, or at least making less of them, and he's adjusting and trying different things, which lets me know that he's seeing his mess ups, he's seeing things that are wrong and processing it, and then trying to find out, okay, what's a different solution to this, instead of just banging his head against the same wall over and over and making the same mistake, which is a big thing to see in someone's development. So Jaden Ivey played really well, man. Played really well over the last 5 games. And again, I'm going to say it one more time. It's not just the last 5 games. He's played really well over the last 20 games, 20 or so games anyways before this. Last thing I'll say, though, is that I do want to see what it looks like as the Pistons play some more functional teams. This 5-game stretch has won against Houston, Dallas, who's not a good defense, Charlotte, we already know about Charlotte's defense, Brooklyn without Kevin Durant. And then the last game against Phoenix, the offense looked really bad, and Phoenix is a pretty good defense. So I'm interested to see how it looks moving forward, see if they adjust once they play against better defenses. But so far, absolutely, Jaden Ivey has looked really good last 5 games, and his just improvement throughout the year has been really impressive for me to see. So Really like what we've seen from Jaden Ivey. Let me know what you guys think about what you guys have seen since the change of the starting lineup and just overall in Jaden Ivey's improvement throughout the year. Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. When we come back, I want to talk about another player who actually has been playing better as of late, and he deserves to be talked about, and that's Saddiq Bey. We're going to talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, PrizePicks. So let's go ahead and take an example. On Super Bowl Sunday, let's say you want to take the over on Patrick Mahomes passing yards and the over on Jalen Hurts rushing yards, but then let's say the Pistons so happen to play on that same day. And you want to take the over on Jaden Ivey's points and then the over on Jalen Duren's rebounds and put it into the exact same entry. Well, you can do that over at PrizePicks. You pick 2 to 6 players and see if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection. You can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. This includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 with PrizePicks.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So we talked about Jaden Ivey and his improved play and how he's played, again, over the last 5 games, but just throughout the year, how he's looked. And here's another player who, for the second straight year, started off pretty horribly, and it started to pick up some steam throughout the year. And that's Saddiq Bey. This is the second straight year this has happened. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that a little bit later. Just give me some time. But first, before we dive into that, I do just want to give him just credit for how he's played as of late. So over the last 11 games for Saddiq Bey, he's averaging 20 points a game, 6.5 rebounds. He's shooting 44% from the field, 40% from deep on 7.2 attempts a game. And one of the areas that we've really given him a lot of credit for, his free throw drawing. He's averaging 5.3 free throw attempts a game, shooting nearly 90% on those free throws. So before we dive into like the deeper meanings of this and what I think this means, again, one, I just want to give him credit for it because he's playing really well offensively. Second of all, his ability to draw free throws is probably like a top 2 or 3 skill set for him. It's crazy how good of a whistle he gets, and he sells the contact. Whether he's actually getting fouled on it or not, that's not what matters. In this NBA, whether people like it or not, you have to sell the contact. You have to sell stuff when you get to the rim, and he does a tremendous job of selling any bit of contact that happens to happen, and even if there's not contact, he screams anytime he gets to the rim. He makes it sound like people are hitting him or he's getting contact. He's done a fantastic job in learning how to manipulate the referees and how to manipulate just the contact that he's receiving when he gets towards the rim. So I want to give him a lot of credit with that too, because it's something that I guess Kate Cunningham could look at that Saddiq Bey's film and try to learn from. But I wanted to give him credit for that. However, let's dive in deeper with this. What does this mean? Saddiq Bey started off slow last 2 years. He's been inconsistent the last 2 years. Defensively, he's not very good defensively. There was another stat I just tweeted out today. I should actually pull it up, actually. If I happen to find it while we're talking, I'll say it. But there's another stat talking about how badly he's been defensively this year, along with Bojan Bogdanovic at the bottom of the league. He's not a very good passer. We all remember the play from just a few nights ago. But he has been a much better scorer for the Pistons the last 11 games, and he's done it on a higher volume. He's averaging almost 15 shots a game for the Pistons. So what does this mean to me? Well, if you guys remember earlier in this season, and I believe even in the offseason, we talked about this on the podcast, and I think what we've seen this year makes it even more plausible and provides even more evidence to it. I don't think Saddiq Bey can be your starter for the Pistons next year. I don't think he can be your starter if you're trying to be a winning team. I don't. I don't think he fits that. If you're going to be in a starting lineup, you have to provide some combination of shooting, defense, switchability, versatility. Like, you have to be able to do a bunch of other little things. You can't just be good at just one thing and be in a starting lineup. At least in my opinion, I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. And I know there's rumors, and James Edwards just dropped another article saying that a lot of teams feel like Saddiq Bey is gettable. I know there's been rumors that he might be traded, but if you're looking for what could Saddiq Bey's role be on this team when they're trying to win, maybe next year, if they're actually trying to win next year, what will his role actually be? What can it be? And I think the best role possible for Saddiq Bey, for him to succeed, for him to grow as an NBA player, for him to find a niche in the NBA and be successful at it, is a high volume scorer off the bench. And that means he's going to get up a lot of shots. He's going to shoot a ton off the bench, and that's all he's going to be asked to do. He's not going to be asked to come off the bench and pass. He's not going to be asked to come off the bench and play great defense. He's going to be asked to come off the bench, shoot a ton, soak up a lot of the offensive possessions, and when he gets hot, he gets hot. But he's going to have a lot of nights when he's just cold. Like, for example, just over the last few weeks, he's had games where he's 6 of 14, 5 of 14, 6 of 16, 6 of 14, 4 of 11, 5 of 15. However, he's getting up so many shots, and he's such a focal point of the offense when he comes in off the bench and when he plays with the bench unit, that he's still finding ways to be efficient because he's drawing free throws. Now, if he wasn't drawing free throws, I wouldn't say he'd be able to do this. But I think I've seen enough from Saddiq Bey when it comes to drawing free throws and just being some kind of offensive focal point that can soak up offense for a bench unit that maybe doesn't have a ton of other offensive options. I feel like that's a role that he will be able to do. Again, because you don't have to, if you're asking him to be a good defender, I don't think you're ever going to get that out of him. If you're asking him to be a pretty good playmaker and use his scoring and his ability to draw fouls and get to the rim to create passing opportunities for other players, I don't think you're ever going to get that from him. But what I think you can get from him is say, look, Saddiq, we got guys in the starting lineup. We want you to come off the bench. We're going to have you play 25 to 28 minutes a game. And in these minutes, all we want you to do is score. We want you to come in, get 14 to 16 shots up. Just come in, shoot the ball, get your threes up, get to the rim, draw your free throws, and him simply being able to score. 16, 17, 15 points off the bench. I don't think he'll be able to score 20 points off the bench long-term in that kind of role. If he is, he'll be like the best sixth man ever. But I think it's okay. It's okay to think that maybe in the future he could be like a 15-point per game scorer off the bench if that's what you ask of him to do. I think that's what this evidence has proven. Let him get a lot of shots up. He's not one of those guys that can, and again, I think we've seen that a lot this year with him. He's not one of those guys that can succeed and thrive in situations where he's only getting 6, 7, 8 shots. If he's only getting 6, 7, 8 shots, he doesn't get into the flow of the game. He kind of looks like he's a little lost out there. He doesn't know like where he needs to pick his spots. Oh, do I need to come in and score here? He kind of gets lost in it. And that's one of the things I feel like that's honestly, you guys know I haven't been the biggest fan of Saddiq Bey, but he has been done a little bit like the amount of the changes that has been made to his role and whether he's coming off the bench, 4-3, 4-3, like that has probably hurt him, which is why I feel like if they just keep him in the role he's in now and have him just completely buy into that role, which we've seen really over the last few games, especially with Killian coming off the bench, it's just been Killian hasn't been getting a lot of shots up outside of that Dallas game where Jaden Ivey got hurt and they were just sagging off of Killian. He couldn't hit a shot. But outside of that, it hasn't been Killian getting shots up. It hasn't been Diallo getting shots up. It's been Saddiq coming into the game and immediately just shot after shot after shot after shot. And I feel like that's the best role. That's really the only role I can see him succeeding in being in when the Pistons are trying to win. And so far, over the last 11 games, he's done really well in that role. So I hope they don't bring him back to the starting lineup. I really don't. Whether they trade Bojan or not, I really hope they do not start him, because I feel like they need to let him stay in this role and let him perfect it and see if he actually can do this. Because if he can, then he has a role in this team moving forward, and you can pencil him in as like the sixth man coming off the team for the Pistons moving forward. That is just a pure scorer. You're not asking him to do anything else. You're not putting any other burden on him other than to just come in and shoot the ball. So That's what I would do with him. And I think that's what he's proven over the last 11 or so games, that he's a high volume guy. He needs to get a lot of shots up. He's not going to be able to just get 5-6 shots up and have a positive impact on the game, because he's not going to impact it defensively, passing, all the other stuff. The only way he's going to positively impact the game is by getting a lot of shots up, scoring the ball, getting hot, and drawing free throws. That's the only way he's going to be able to impact the game. And heck, if he's going to be able to do it while shooting 44, 40, 90 splits, why not? Why not? Anyone would take that. So I'm interested to see. If the Pistons don't trade Saddiq Bey, which I don't think they're going to, I really am interested to see how he does this for the rest of the year. Is this something that he continues to play like the rest of the year, and does he succeed in that? Because then I would feel a lot more comfortable by his future on the team. A few weeks ago, you guys know, I was feeling pretty uncomfortable about his future on the team. But now I can see that high volume scorer off the bench. If he's able to do that for the rest of the year, I'm really interested. So let me know what you guys think about that. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. When we come back, another player who's played really well. And now I'm even starting to question, okay, is there a future for him somewhere on this team? Or is this just a feel-good story? He's playing well right now, but it's just too hard to really fit him into an actual winning team. You guys will find out who I'm talking about when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, you guys' favorite sponsor, Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat? Don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I got the thing for you. You got to try Built Bar. With Built Bar, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't think they're actually good for you, but they are. Perfect for your New Year's resolutions. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've talked about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at local Walmart or a Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Again, head to Sam's Club or your local Walmart or Built.com to try the best protein bars out there. That is Built Bar. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So we've given a lot of props to Jaden Ivey on the podcast today, a lot of props to Saddiq Bey on the podcast today, but there's another player that deserves some props here, and that is Hamidou Diallo. Over the last 17 games for Hamidou Diallo, he is shooting 66% from the floor. He's averaging 12 points a game, coming off the bench, and he has found a role with this team. We've talked about it a lot. They've put him in the dunker spot. They have him cutting to the rim. They're using him in the pick and rolls. They're basically using him as a 4-5 type. There's even been minutes where he's playing the 5 position for them lately. Like, it hasn't happened a ton, but they've done it recently. So they're basically using him as like another big guy. And if Diallo was like 4 inches taller, that 100% he would be amazing. He would be amazing. He would just be like a 4-5, and he'd be able to play defense on 4s and 5s, and he'd actually be really, really damn good. But you have to, at this point, since obviously he's not 4 inches taller, you have to get unique with how you use him. You have to get creative. And they have done that. They've gotten creative. They've gotten unique with how they're using him, with how we've just talked about. Dunker spot, pick and roll, cuts, all that kind of stuff. And he's played well enough for a long enough time, 17 games. I feel like that's a decent sample size to say he's found a role and it's working. He's played well enough to where I found myself asking, okay, Diallo's playing well, but is this something that you can see him doing for a winning team as a consistent rotation piece? Or is this just like a feel-good story? He's playing really well for a rebuilding team, and since they're not trying to win, they can jump through all these hoops and try and make things work with him because, why not? And I don't know where I sit with it. I don't know. I'm still like thinking it out. I don't have a firm position on it. These are my concerns with it. If you're playing to win and you got Diallo at the 4 position, do you trust him to play defense on opposing fours? I think a lot of us would accurately say no. If you're playing him consistently at the 4 position and you're trying to win, you probably cannot get away with him defending 4s. It's probably not going to work out too well. Which means you then would have to play him next to a rim protecting 5. So you can like kind of balance out the defense. Mind you, the Pistons are one of the worst defensive teams in the entire NBA this year, one of the worst defenses in history. Okay? So that means that's what you would have to do. But then if you do that, can you really put him in the dunker spot? Because then you got 2 big guys, unless you got a rim protecting center that can also shoot threes, which you're probably paying him a ton of money. He's probably your starter at that point. But you then need that center, that 5 that's playing next to him, to be able to space the floor, at least in my opinion, because you can't have both of them sitting around the basket or then the offense gets clogged. So those are my concerns about whether this is something that can be sustained moving forward. That doesn't take away from anything he's doing right now. He's playing really well, and he's provided a needed spark. I do think at the very least, at least for this Pistons team, maybe he does something else if he gets moved or signed somewhere else, but at least for this Pistons team in the future, he 100% has a role as like just an energy bunny, as like the 10th, 11th guy at the least, that if someone's not bringing it one game, or you need like an influx of energy, someone to just cause chaos in a game, he can get brought into the games like 3 to 4 minutes, just shake things up, try to give your team a bolt of energy and see if that changes things. I think he's done that, and I think that he's guaranteed himself at least that type of role on a team. It's just I question whether will the Pistons be willing basically to jump through the hoops to make his unique way of playing. Is he good enough for them to want to do that? Now, I don't know. I don't know yet. So one of you guys tweeted me. I forget who it was, but one of you guys tweeted me and said, hey, do you think, I know you've talked about this, how unique he is and whether he can provide for a winning team moving forward. Do you think he could be like a Gary Payton II type of build? And I think that's a really good comparison. So Gary Payton, he obviously played for the Warriors last year. I forget, he's in Portland now, right? He's in Portland now after winning that championship with Golden State last year, and he provided real value for Golden State for being, he was a really good lockdown defender, but also he played a lot of the same way as Diallo in the half court. He's a dude who made a lot of cuts to the rim. He was always in the dunker spot. He'd catch dump offs and just slam it home. Really, really good defender. The one thing that Diallo, if he could get into that role, he would have to improve in a few areas. And he could do this. This is a role that I could see him becoming. He just would have to improve in these areas. And these are the 2 areas. One, he'd have to become a lockdown defender. He would legit have to be someone known for their defense. Someone you can say, okay, we're going to put him on this guy, and he's going to do his best, and we feel comfortable doing it. He's not at that point. He's not a great defender right now. So he'd have to get to that point first. That's because right now he blows up some plays because he's very active. But along with being active on defense in the passing lanes, you also see him a lot of times gamble and stuff he shouldn't gamble with. You guys know I've mentioned all the time that he plays defense too much with his hands. That's just one area he would have to improve in if he could get into that Gary Payton II role. That's one. 2, this is the part that I just don't see him ever being able to do. I could see him somewhat becoming that defender, and that maybe could make up for it because of just the raw amount of energy that he brings. Maybe the raw energy, and if he improved defensively to the point of like Gary Payton II, then it would be worth it. But Gary Payton II also could hit corner threes. A lot of his threes come from the corner. Last year with the Warriors, he shot 40% from 3 in the corners. That was 60% of his three-point attempts. This year for the Trailblazers, he hasn't played a ton. He's only in 13 games. He dealt with injuries. But he's shooting 66% from the corners on 64% of his attempts from 3. So that allowed him to just be a spacer out there too for the Warriors. I don't know if Diallo will ever get to that point. I don't know if I think a lot of us have just accepted that shooting is never going to be something he's going to be able to do. Now, if he were to be able to do that, then obviously his value instantly goes up, and you can do that moving forward with him. But I'm kind of just thinking out loud with you guys and just sharing my thoughts because you guys know at the beginning of the year, I was completely out on Diallo. Didn't think he had any future on this team whatsoever. But he's played so well as of late that it's got me thinking of ways he could possibly contribute for the team moving forward. Now I'm trying to find ways to make it work, and trying to decide, is he good enough for the Pistons to want to go through the hoops? And can he improve in these areas to where he could really become just basically an archetype of Gary Payton II? So I was a little all over the place with that, but legit, I'm kind of just, like I said, I'm just talking out loud with you guys. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Kind of just bounce our ideas off of each other here, because it's not a confirmed thing. It's not set in stone. No one knows yet. I'm sure a lot of people feel all kinds of different ways about it. But yeah, just let me know where you guys stand on it, because it is an interesting discussion to have because of how well he's been playing. He deserves it. He deserves to have this conversation, which he wasn't having this kind of conversation at the beginning of the year, but he's played good enough and he's deserved this kind of conversation to be had about him at this point. So, which says great things about him. I'm happy with how he's played as of late. So, yeah, real positive podcast, man. I know some of you guys said, "Cool, man. How much longer can you keep going with the positivity with this team?" Well, I think we're going pretty good. We've been pretty positive, and this is 3 straight segments of just giving guys their credit, and they deserve it too. So, had a lot of fun with this one. Let me know what you guys think about the podcast and today's episode. Everything we talked about, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kukahil. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on our podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe. Go Pistons. And peace out.